Good morning. It's 9 a.m. and we have folks out there that are in Zoom land that are connected, and Mavis is here in person. And we're going to have a marvelous presentation from her. And I don't know if any of you heard her before. I haven't either, so this is going to be a first for us. Anyhow, welcome to the Forum Club. A few comments that I have to make. We are collecting dues for this season. And a year ago, we decided that dues would cover a season from October through April. In the past, we were on a calendar year, January through December, but the poor guy who had to key in all of the payments had to get it all done in January because GBR wants to know our membership in January.
What poor guy was that?
I don't know who that poor guy was. He's the guy that also does the technology and the emceeing and some of the other stuff. And for those of you who were here last week, I did not tell a joke. Normally I tell a guys holding up two fingers or well, it's better than one finger, I guess.
That's joke one. No.
Anyhow, I normally tell an Ole and Lena joke or something similar to an Ole and Lena joke before it gets started. And you know, up in the North Country in Minnesota, we get floods in the Red River of the North, which flows up the Hudson's Bay. And in some years it's really, really bad. Well, this one year it was really, really bad. And Lena and her friend Olga were standing on the roof of the house because it was flooded down there. And there was a hat floating down the river. And then it kind of flowed back up this way and flowed back that way. And Olga said to Lena, you know, that looks like Ole's hat. Oh yeah, he said he was going to go out and mow the lawn come hell or high water. And I don't know if I have another one. So we're gonna let
You can if you got one, no problem.
I can't
Encourage him.
I can't think of one at the top of my head. One that I haven't told you before. The one I told how many were here a couple weeks ago?
What?
Okay. Oh, not so many. Cool. Then
Is
then
yelling.
Lena was again talking to Olga, and Lena was complaining. And she said, you know, my brother, he has two sisters, but I only have one. You got your two. Mavis is here, and you got your lapel mic on and everything, and we're streaming, so it's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much. I am so thrilled to be here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who the heck I am and why am I here speaking to you. And I do move around a lot. I'm going to try to stay here for the people that are on Zoom, but we'll just do the best we can. So my name is Mavis Lamb, and I am an intuitive story wrangler. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay, because I'm a writer and I make up words and things all the time. So I made that up. But what it is I am a writer. I am also a ghost writer. And I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but I help people tell their stories. I help people write books. But the ghostwriting part of it, as you can imagine, is because you're in the background. You don't usually get any credit. It's not a co-author situation. It is very
Lover just joined.
But I realized that what I really do is help people who seem you probably have heard somebody, oh, I've always thought I'd write a book, but they never did.
I said, Larry,
I should write a book. I should tell my stories, but they never did. There's typically a reason for that. And sometimes they know what it is and sometimes they don't. So as an intuitive story wrangler, I come in and help them figure out what's getting in their way. I shine a light on the path of what's already in front of them, so then they can make a decision and work around that and through that block, and then they can tell their story. I'm a big advocate of no matter what you do, you got to tell your story. So that's who I am. I have also worked for years as a networking guru and helping people to make connections and build their business and kind of just live a better life. So that's why I'm here today, to talk to you about the myth and method to living in harmony and balance. I mean, it sounds great just to say it, harmony and balance. Ooh, how many of us get to do that? Kind of hit and miss, right? So I want to talk with you a little bit about why that is, what goes on with that. How many of you would like to make, we're getting to the end of the year, how many of you would like to make 2024 a year of more harmony, more balance, more peace, right? Especially these days. It would be, some of us are like, you know, I'm doing all right. It's okay. That's awesome. I love that. But so what I want to share with you a little bit is that that is possible. But how many of you have felt like I said that before? I said, this is going to be the year. I'm going to get that thing done. I'm going to figure out my life. I'm going to have it not be so chaotic. Les and I were talking about, he mentioned, is there order in chaos? There is a little bit, actually, right? But we get all discombobulated. Well, it's okay if we don't kind of hit the mark every time. That's what I want to talk to you about today. It's about achieving goals, being successful, and having the balance and harmony that we want in our lives. And I want to share with you that if you've missed that mark, if you kind of didn't hit that, and don't feel like you're doing so well with some of that, it's not your fault. The reason that we tend to miss the mark with those kinds of things is because we only typically have about half the tools that we need. They give us some of the information and guidance, but they don't give us the other piece. It's sort of like setting goals. If you don't set them the right way, there's no way you're ever going to achieve them. So that's a part of the myth, is that you can just do it, just make it happen. So what happens sometimes then is if we don't have all the tools, we don't have all the information that we think we need, we don't know we don't have it most of the time, then we're missing out. What happens is that no matter what we're asking for, wishing for, hoping for, we don't get it because we ask for the wrong thing, if that makes sense. You're like, well, how can I ask for something I don't want? Who in the world would do that? Happens easier than you think. I'll give you a very basic example of how we look at things. Say, for example, you're going to order some holiday cards from a printer or even online, and you're going in and your goal is, I want to get the cheapest cards possible. I want to spend as little money as possible. Well, that makes sense. Why should you spend more money than you have to? But then when you get the cards, the quality is not so great. And so you're unhappy. You didn't get what you wanted, but did you get what you asked for? Yes, you did. So we kind of missed the mark. I love this that came up on Facebook. We do 3 types of jobs here: good, fast, and cheap. You can have any 2. Right? If it's good and cheap, it will not be fast. If it's good and fast, it will not be cheap. And if it's fast and cheap, it will not be good. We've all dealt with that. We've all experienced that. And the thing is, there are still people that, well, I want all 3. Well, that's where the unicorns live, where you get everything you want, no problem, no harm, no foul, everything. Please move forward, right? So we get off base. We don't always ask for what we want. So when we go back to those holiday cards, what they really wanted was the best quality they could afford. But that's not what I asked for, right? So we have to kind of look at that. And I'm pretty sure to say that we all want a successful life. It doesn't matter if we're working or semi-retired or fully retired. We all still want success. We want to be able to have that life that we want, right? We have a desire. We want it. Anybody in here want it all? Good. We've gotten smarter over the years. Because I always say you can't have it all. Where would you put it? Right? And the comedian Stephen Wright said it really is a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. Right? So we kind of have to put, excuse me, we have to put things in perspective. So I'm going to get back to kind of that having it all concept a little bit later. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the meaning of success. So we've established in the room pretty much everybody wants a good life, a successful life. And I know that I'm assuming the majority of the people in this room are retired. How many are fully retired? I'm done. I don't have to do any of that anymore. Anybody semi-retired? I kind of am still working a little. Okay, good. Awesome. You made it. And then there are those that are still working. But the point is, it doesn't mean that success is just tied to business. A lot of times when we're in the working world, that's kind of what we think. But really, it's about what it means to you. So I would say that, yeah, we've already established that. You all want a successful life. But I would guarantee you, you have a vision of that when you say that. But that's your vision. Because successful life to someone else, if you saw what they did, that. I had a friend whose vision of success was going to be living on a boat full time. And I'm like, good for you. I hope that works out. You're a Jimmy Buffett pirate and have a lot of fun. I'll be on land. Let me know when you dock. Right? I'll go for a boat ride, but that wasn't my idea, anywhere close to my idea of what success was. So as we think about it, what the heck is success? Might be more time, more fun cars and toys and things like that. Better retirement, being able to do all the things that we want to do, right? So when we think about some of those things, even within that, it can mean something different. So let's take, for example, more money. More money is great. Who doesn't want more? Well, except if you're trying to stay in a certain tax bracket, that can kind of mess you up sometimes. But most of us want more money. But the thing is, what will you do with that money? What does more money mean to you? Does it mean that you want a bigger house or a different house or a second home or whatever? Does it mean you'll be able to be debt-free? Right? Does it mean that you'll be able to travel more? So we have to kind of drill it down. More money. What might that mean? More time. We all would like more time, but what would we do with it? What does that mean? If you had all the time in the world, what would you do? Anybody? By the way, I'm interactive, so if you have an idea, shout it out. No? No ideas? How many of you would like to travel more? Few people. How many of you would like to have more time with your family? Few. Some of us are like, please no. That's okay. I'm not gonna, I've had enough of that, right? There are different things though that we can do, and that's the point that we need to understand. You might want to say, you know what, if I have more time, I would take up a hobby. I'd learn a new skill. I'd go take that water Zumba class if I had more time or whatever, right? That's out there. That's, by the way, that's the music out there. So, you know, we can get our Zumba on while we're talking, right? You might read more. Maybe it's a leisure activity. You know, me, I'd take more naps. If I had more time, I'd take more naps. So maybe you'd cook more. Maybe you'd take a cooking class. It all comes down to being specific with what do your goals, what does your vision of success mean for you? Here's another great example. You're going to get some paint and you say, I want purple. Okay, but do you really want purple? Or do you want eggplant or lavender? So the point is that if you're not specific, you may not get what you want, but you'll get what you ask for. So we have to be specific, even to ourselves. We can't have these kind of vague visions because they don't really kind of come up with what we want, what we need. Another way to look at it is say that you are needing to get some handyman things done around your home. Maybe you want to remodel, maybe it's time for an update, maybe you got a lot of damage done in the storm we had last year. A lot of us went through some things like that. And so you're looking for the company with which to work with. And one of their mottos is provide great customer service. What does your brain hear? Love. You know why? Because we expect great customer service. That's a starting point, not a finishing point. So you're not providing me anything I didn't expect. So that's why that's not a great thing to say to somebody. So what if yourself, you're saying, I want to have more harmony, I want to have more peace, I want to have, what does your brain do? Blah, blah, blah. Because of course you want more harmony in your life. But what does that mean to you? If you don't get into it and specific, you're not getting your brain any unexpected messages. You know, it's like, I want to lose some weight. That's about one of the vaguest goals that you could ever set that you will never meet because you're not being specific enough with yourself, right? So harmony, all those things mean something different to us. We have our own personal vision of how we look at things. And so you need to think about it. Well, am I living the life I want? Am I having the retirement that I dreamed of? Am I successful in all the areas that I do in my life? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Is it working for me? So if I don't look at certain areas of my life, like I'm doing good over here, but I'm not looking over here, then it gets ignored, right? And it's likely going to then cause us problem and failure. He's all good. He's just gonna, he's gonna adjust it for me. That magic. Give it up for Les. They're like, no, it'll encourage him. It'll encourage him. Okay, so so we just kind of need to think about those things and really kind of pull ourselves together, whether we're working or retired. We can get tricked into thinking we're doing okay to get through the day, right? I know nobody in this room has a project they've put off or an idea that they wanted to do and they haven't done. I know that's just me, but I'm going to share it with you anyway, right? So how many of you have ever heard a phrase like this? My plate is too full. I don't have time to start that exercise class, plan that vacation, whatever it is. I feel like I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions. I'm burning the candle at both ends. I never seem to get my to-do list done every day. I feel like I take one step forward and 2 steps back. All right. So there's some other phrases that might sound familiar to you with these wishful thoughts. When I get this project finished, then the next time I get back home or the next time I get to Green Valley for the snowboards, I'm going to ... After I get through the holidays, I'm going to get this done. Next year, things are going to be different. When I find some time in my schedule, or some of my favorite phrases start with someday I'll take that vacation. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll take up that hobby that I've always wanted to do. Someday I'll start painting. Someday I'll start photography, right? We get stuck. These are statements of a life that is out of balance now. Okay. So I want to be really clear about the fact that what we've experienced and what we've gone through, I'm talking the big picture. I'm not talking about events that happen in our lives. So what I mean by that is we all have events that take our focus for a time, right? Getting ready to retire, moving, downsizing, a child or grandchild is getting married, you have a health crisis. Those kinds of things happen, positive and negative. But chances are it is a chunk of time. It is not your lifestyle. And so it's when the lifestyle becomes kind of out of whack. And if that becomes the norm, then you're not living your best life. And now is the time more than ever that you all deserve to be living your best life. So there's some things that we can kind of look at. So there's a lot of ways that we can get out of balance with all of our to-do lists, right? We have a lot of stuff that we want to do. We have our daily routines. We want to keep in touch with our family and friends. We exercise, we do whatever. Hopefully it's more fun things than negative things. But maybe you've got 2 homes that you've got to try to keep going. Or you want to say, you know what, I'm going to clean out the closet, or I want to clean out the garage, or I've got to try to eat healthier. I've got to try to get all my doctor's appointments done. I got to make sure my health insurance is up. Okay, am I the only one that if I see one more Medicare Advantage commercial, I'm going to throw my TV out? Not that we don't have to take care of it, but come on, give me a break, right? But it's stuff like that that's always coming at us. You got to do this, you got to do that. Are you taking care of everything that you need to take care of? Maybe there's a fence or two you need to mend with a family member or a friend. Maybe there's always something to do to create your comfortable home, you know, and we think we're doing great because we got up, we got out and ran our errands, we got home, we did a few things around the house. Check, done. Did you work on anything that you're dreaming of? Did you work on anything that you're passionate about? So even if the things I've mentioned aren't on your list, you have a list. And it may not be written down. It may be in your head. And I'm going to give you a tip right now for unfinished projects. Irma von Beck was the one that said this. She said, if you have unfinished projects, put it in a box and put somebody's name on it. That way, even if you never get it done, and they find it later, like, isn't that sweet? They were working on that for me. Thank you, Irma. Appreciate you. Right? So, but we all have stuff like that. Most of us, we feel like it, you know, there's something missing if we're not hitting all these marks. So we look to tomorrow, and we look to tomorrow, and we look to tomorrow. And I want to help you kind of look at today and how to make each day the best that it can be. So here's part of the problem that we have with living a life in balance. When we hear the word balance, our brain thinks of something like this: a scale, two things. Like, I have a balanced diet. I have a cheeseburger in one hand and a milkshake in the other. That's balance. Look at that, right? But how many of us only have two things in life we have to balance? And if you do, I want to be you. So let's talk later, because I want to figure out how you're doing that. But that's part of the problem, is that we have more than two things. So I would like for you to look at your life a little bit more like this. It's a wheel. The outer part of that is your lifestyle, the why, what are you doing? And then each spoke is something that you want to keep in balance, right? So that we can cruise on down the road, right? So we look at it like that instead. So what I want you to do, and I've got some paper here that I'm going to hand down. If you don't have a pen, I've got some extra pens, and I will tell you this is just for you. So I'm going to do those. I'm going to pen or two, and let me do pen. So I'm sorry. I'll put those there because I've got some more too. If you need more, if you have extra pieces of paper, just use paper here and just leave it at the end of the row. I know you didn't know you were gonna have to work today, did you? Don't worry, it's only for you and lie. Actually, don't wait for a couple weeks. You have one, okay. There's some paper, there's a pen, okay, I got more paper coming up. I think I've got some more paper at the end of the row down here. Awesome. Extra paper. Extra paper. So actually, this is just for you, but that instead of lying, I would encourage you to be really honest with yourself. Okay, so. I'm gonna go home for it. Did everybody, let's go around that way. Around. All right, anybody else still need a pen or writing implement? Okay, get some more out of this box. There goes.
Hi, Bentley. Hi, buddy. Hi, Bradley.
Here and here. Anybody else? And down here. And there.
Mm-hmm. Good, my boy. My boy.
And you need a pen. Okay, you need a pen also? Yeah. All right. Everybody get a pen and a piece of paper. Okay. You get it? Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I want you to first, and don't worry if you're not a good artist, draw a circle. That's your wheel. And Then I want you to put your spokes in. You can put in however many spokes you want. You can keep it simple. You can just look at your big picture stuff. You can put everything in there that you're working on, everything you're thinking of. Let me give you some examples. Your hobbies, your community, maybe you want to volunteer more, your health. Health may be more than one. You may have dietary health. You may be wanting to get off some medicine. You may be trying to do more exercise. So those could be different spokes. Your family. You could have your immediate family. You could have your extended family. You could have your friends that are like family. So you can have multiple spokes there. Okay. So I'm going to give you a minute to kind of just it's just for you. Just your circle doesn't have to be perfect. Draw your lines and then just write a few things down that you're thinking about that are important to you, that are part of your life that you want to work on. And you can put code words and you can put letters. You don't have to write out everything completely as long as you know what it is. And when you're done with this, you can throw it away. It's okay. But I want to help you start to think. Remember, we talked about being specific. So then what I want you to do, you see that little red line there. So when you've got something, if you are 100% satisfied with where you are in that, then that goes on the very outer rim. If you have a spoke that you put in there that you haven't touched in a while and you're not doing anything with it, then it's probably at 0 all the way down to the center. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 70%. Just be honest again, just with you. Nobody else is going to see this. So just kind of think about, how am I doing? Oh, I'm doing really good with that. Oh, not so good with that. I got to start over with this one, or I forgot I even had that as a spoke, right? And then just make your marks. So it might look something like that. Then what I want you to do is draw a new circle. And I say circle, it may not be a circle, to connect those different dots, those lines. So yours may end up looking a little bit more like that. So how imbalanced is your wheel if it looks like that? Not so good. And what if that's the wheel that you have to use to get down the road, trying to ride? It's like being on La Cañada. We all know that, right? It's but worse, because what if you have a big divot and you almost fall off your bike when you hit to that part? What's going on? How come I'm so out of balance? What is happening? So I want you to really kind of take a look at that and be honest with yourself. Again, nobody's going to see this. This is just for you. But how much fun do you think it would be to ride that wheel down the road? So you might begin to wonder, oh, that's why I feel like I'm just getting through the days, right? So I want you to think about, and I want to be really clear that our ideal is not perfection. Nobody's ever going to have it perfect, but we'd like to make it a little better, a little smoother, a little easier for you to get down the road, right? So the most important thing I want you to realize first is you have control of your wheel. Don't let anybody else give you a wheel or give you some spokes and say, here, this is part of your life now, and you have to deal with that. No, you don't. Sometimes we get things because of, this is a word that obligation. I have to do this. No, you don't have to. I mean, there are certain things we do have to do. We have to breathe. You know, we have to eat, we have to drink water. But you don't have to take, if you look at that and go, you know, this brings me no joy. I'm only doing this because. Then I want you to think about that. The other thing is, don't copy anybody else's wheel. And I don't mean here on this piece of paper. I just mean in general, this is what my best friend's life is like, or this is what my siblings' life is like, or whatever. This is what, you know, the rich people's life is like. Well, that's not going to fit you. So let go of those types of things, right? So sometimes we have something, you might find yourself, you have a spoke that you haven't really paid attention to in a while, but you like it. It brings you some peace, some joy, some harmony, some balance. I will give you an example. I am an avid reader. Anybody else an avid reader loves to read, right? I went through a period in my life, and it's happened more than once, where I got so busy I couldn't read. Well, reading is a luxury, so that had to be set aside. But then I took the time to reread a book by Stephen King called On Writing. And some of you may know that. It's a memoir on the craft. And even if you're not a Stephen King fan, it's a great read. And what he said in there is great writers are great readers. Because every time we read something new, it improves our own skills. It makes us better because we see what we like, what we don't like, we learn. And so what I realized is that piece that I've been setting aside, I don't have time to read. That's a luxury. I'll get to that after I finish this project. Was actually shortchanging myself. So think about the things that you're not doing and realize that maybe those are the things that you need to be doing more of. So that would be one of the first things. You know, I remember a few years ago, and here's why we sometimes get in balance. We talked about obligation. But I also want to talk about the fact that most people do things because they want to help other people. We're really, by nature, most of us are pretty good about that. We want to take care of our family and our friends, and we want to be involved in our community, and we're volunteering and all those kinds of things. But the thing is that people that love to help people, they want to give that cold cup of water. I want to be there. We first have to remember that our cup is not empty. So if we're not taking time for ourselves, to feed ourselves, to fill ourselves, we don't have anything to give anybody anyway. Have you ever had something, a meeting or a committee you're on, and you sort of dread the meeting day, or you know that nobody else is going to volunteer to do it, so you're going to do it again? It's because your cup is empty, and it may be that somebody gave you that spoke, and it might be time to let go of that spoke, right? So we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So let's go back to that wheel and see what might be going on. Is your wheel just too big? Like, are your expectations kind of out of the realm of reality, feasibility, right? Are they realistic? Like, maybe you don't need to lose 70 pounds, get a master's degree, and write a book in 2024, right? Instead, maybe you're like, I'm going to work on losing 10 pounds. I will create a plan for that, right? I will take a class. Maybe it'll even be an online class so it can fit into my schedule. And maybe I'll write a short story or a funny letter. Make your wheel smaller if you need to. It doesn't mean dampening your vision. It just means if you set a goal, like, you know, I love goals. They're called BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. And sometimes we want to challenge ourselves, and we need a goal so big that we know that we can't do it by ourselves, because it taps us into working with other people. But sometimes we're like, okay, that's just so crazy. That's just doesn't mean I won't do it. It just means I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to make my wheel a little bit smaller so it is more attainable. Now, some of you may have done that. I know my husband and I did that kind of during the pandemic and all the crazy lockdown. I made our wheel really small. I didn't try to do everything. I'm a networker. That clearly wasn't happening, so that spoke went away, right? But I just sort of said, okay, let's just deal with the people that are already in our world. Let's not worry about all the things right now. The other thing that can happen is you have too many spokes. Yeah, I know. You look at that, you're like, oh, that just makes my head hurt. But some people do. You ever know those people? They've got 2,500 things they're trying to do all the time. And it's like, you're not going to get it all done. Your brain's going to explode. And you're not going to be happy. So be a little happy. You know, wait a minute, maybe I need to get rid of some of these spokes. And the cool thing you can do is for now. Like, maybe I'm just going to take that spoke away for now. It doesn't mean I'm going to throw it away. I'm just going to put it on the shelf in the garage that I'm going to clean out next year. Right? So we want to think about those things. I had to remove a few spokes. I was the head of a playwrights group for 13 years. And it had evolved into Mavis's playwright group, and she does all the things and she makes it happen. And it was exhausting me, and I wasn't able to do some of these other things. I couldn't work on my own play because I was busy running the playwrights group. And I remember one time we had a showcase, and we had 3 nights, and I would come in and run tech. We had a theater that graciously allowed us to be there, and I would help run tech. in the rehearsals and make sure everything, the lights went up and down, and here's the props and all this. And one time when we had it scheduled, I had to be out of town at a conference. So I asked for someone to step up. The first thing I heard was crickets. The second thing is I got 3 people. They would do one night. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So they did. And I was there the last night. I couldn't be there early. I was there for the performance. And I had no idea this was going to happen. But after it was all over, they called me up on stage and gave me flowers and said, we had no idea. We had no idea what you were doing, right? So I'm like, well, somebody had to do it. So I picked up that spoke and I ran with it, right? But I was like, okay, it's time. 13 years is enough. I let it go. So maybe you have something like that you just kind of have too many spokes going on, right? Excuse me. So the other thing we have to make sure we're doing is after we've made our wheel a little smaller, maybe removed a few of the spokes that are no longer a fit for us. I had a great example of that. I had a friend that wanted to be a writer. She wanted to write a book about the experiences of her mother in the care center that she was in. There was just all these great things that were going on that could have been very helpful for other people that might be heading down that road. I checked in with her a few years later and she's like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. So she had a spoke and she got rid of it. And I was very proud of her. I'm like, that's a good thing to know. Don't leave that hanging out there. I should do that. I should do that. No, don't do that. So once you kind of get your wheel adjusted, you get a few of the spokes removed, you need to check on it every week. How am I doing? Doesn't mean you have to do something. Earl Palmer was a pastor at University Presbyterian Church in Seattle, author, speaker. And he said one time, whatever you want to do, you should do something connected to it every week. Now, that did not mean if you wanted to run, you should run a marathon every week, right? Maybe you just run around the block. It did not mean if you want to be a painter, you need to do a painting every week, but maybe I got my new brushes, or I picked out some new paints, or I found the next subject that I'm going to paint. You balance it out. You make sure that you're doing okay with it. And it's okay if things change. And it's okay if a new spoke gets introduced to you. You know, here's a great place to find something new. And you're like, I never did that before. I never knew about that. Maybe that's a spoke for me. Okay. So I'm going to give you 6 steps to better balance and harmony. And some of these, they're just fun little things that I have learned over many years of trying to help people become more successful, means streamline their life and do the things that they want to do. So the first one is called Eat the Frog. First of all, how disgusting does that sound? Right? Anybody ever heard of that theory before? Eat the frog? Okay. I know it's probably just me, but maybe one of you have had a to-do thing that you don't want to do. Make a phone call, do some research, get an answer, whatever it is. We keep putting it off. At the end of the day, we didn't do that. We'll do it tomorrow. Well, here's the cool thing about this. If you go ahead and do it first, the rest of your day is just like walking on air because you did the thing, whatever it was. And I will tell you this, that a lot of times we don't want to do something because we're afraid of the outcome. We don't want to hear the no. We don't want to get yelled at. We don't want to get in trouble, whatever. We don't want to hear. So imagine what the worst case scenario is for you. And if that happened, what would you do? Put it on all of you. Yeah. But what's the worst thing? Well, I would get the no. I would find out I wasn't a part of that. I would have to do something else. Once I know the worst for me and I have problem solved out of that, like I'll get off the phone, I'll go have a cry, I'll get another cup of coffee and I'll keep on rocking. Oh, okay. Because chances are when you go to eat the frog, it's not going to be as bad as you thought. The worst case scenario that a lot of us do, we get in the doom loop, usually doesn't happen. It's not the worst. It might not be the best outcome, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. And we're still going to be okay. Somebody posted this morning, I saw it right before I left, and I shared it with a couple of people that are here today. It said, get out of your head, get back on your feet, remember who you are. I thought that was great. I was like, I needed to hear that right before I came up here to share with these people, right? I have a friend that used to joke about that when anything bad would happen. She'd say, do they know who I am? It was all in jest, but it was a great mental message for herself. I am good. I am unique. I am special. I have amazing skills that nobody else does. I'm a good, boom. So we eat the frog. Okay. The next one, put your to-do list on Post-it notes. I learned early in my career to write down everything I had to do. Because I would get pulled, I was one of those pulled in so many different directions, and I was the office manager that had to answer the phone, but had to approve the contracts, but had to make sure the stuff was sent that. And I would forget things unintentionally. So I learned early on, make a list, because then you can check them off. And I used to feel so good. Sometimes I'd start my list with something I'd already done just so I could check it off. But if I make a smaller list, it's kind of like making your wheel smaller. I do not mean, see how small you can write and see how many things you can get under Post-it, right? Average, and write maybe 4 or 5 things. That if I could get these things done this day or this week, I will have accomplished something. It will be good. Don't worry about all the other stuff. If you make a huge long list, like I tend to like over detail things, I'm never going to get it all done. So at the end of every day, I'm like, oh, look at what I didn't do. I have, when I used to live up in Washington State, I had a great big yard and it was beautiful, but it needed a lot of work all the time. And every time I walked out, all I could see was what needed to be done. And when I married my husband, he wasn't used to having, he'd been an apartment dweller for a long time. And he would, oh, this is so great. It's so beautiful. He saw everything that was wonderful. And I'm like, how do you do that? He said, well, why do you do that? I'm like, that's a really good question. We can focus on, we don't have to focus on everything that needs to be done. Pick those 4 or 5 things. Put your frog up top. And then at the end of the day, if you didn't get anything done, there's only one thing that maybe you didn't get done. You got 3 big things done that made you feel better. What is it that you want to do? Shrink it down. Remember earlier when I talked about someday I'll take the trip. Someday I'll do that. You got to get off someday I'll. You have to put a plan because someday I'll has no plan, right? You know, they always say goals that aren't written down are just dreams. You have to have a plan. I don't care what it's about. We all have something that we want to do. Even if it's, get up and I have my little to-do list and I want to come up to the pool or go to the gym or hit the poker club or get to the forum club, whatever it is, we have things that we want to do. So if you've got something that you say, someday I challenge you to get off the island. I challenge you to start to make a plan. And here's the one way you can do that. You have to start today. How many of you have ever, whatever it is, tomorrow, I'm going to start the thing. Whatever. Guess what? Tomorrow never comes. Because when tomorrow comes, it's now today. And so I'm going to do it tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So especially with those someday I'll items, I challenge you, what can you do today? Find a picture online of the place you want to go vacation, print it up, stick it on the fridge. That's a thing that you can do today. If you want to learn a new skill, the thing you can do today is go look at who has this. Is it offered here? Is it offered nearby? Is it offered online? Go do a little research on some skill, some hobby, some craft, whatever it is. Send an email if you want to volunteer at the Animal League because you love dogs. Send an email. Hey, what's your volunteer scenario? Just ask a question. You don't have to say yes right now. Just how do you do that? Okay, little things, but start today. And the other thing, and I hope that as we hit into our retirement, we're a little better at this, but some people are not, no matter how old they get. Schedule some downtime, some quiet time, some time for you to just be. You might read a book. We talked about that. It might start with, hey, I'll take 5 minutes and I'm just going to sit here. Maybe on the way out today, if it got warm enough, you'll sit on a bench for a minute or sit in your car where the sun came in and it warmed it up. And just give yourself a minute to breathe deeply. We don't breathe very well as human beings, right? Breathe deeply all the way down into our toes. It helps our mind. It helps our physical bodies. It helps heal. So if you got an ache or a pain, stop and breathe. Breathe deeply. Take it in. Remember who you are, and you are worthy of having a life in harmony. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy to love yourself. And that's the last one. Forgive yourself. No one is perfect. Anyone that says they are, they're not, because they just lied. Right? When somebody says, "Oh, you're so perfect," I'm like, please don't ever say that to me. That is so much pressure. I loved when I figured out I didn't have to do everything right. I didn't have to know everything. Right? I'm happy at this point to say, you know what, that's not my lane, that's not my world, but you need to talk to. I can maybe help you find somebody to talk to. In college, when I was in production, evidently, and this may be surprising, I acted like I knew everything. And so people would come up and ask me stuff. Now, I knew creative things inside and out, but technical, how to hang the light, what light was the best one, I was like, la, 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 la. So someone say, "Hey, Mavis, where should we do?" I was like, "Oh, you know what? I'd have something in my hand. I got to go take care of this, but ask Jeff. He'll help you," because Jeff was really good. I didn't send him to somebody that didn't know, but then what I did is oh, okay. Because I couldn't yet say, "I don't know. Let's go ask Jeff together." That would have been a better move, but I wasn't there yet. I hadn't forgiven myself. But be gentle with yourself. We're not perfect. We're human. We're frail. We're fragile. We're just who we are. But we're all worthy and we're all good. So if you can do that and look at your wheel, adjust your spokes, do those 6 steps, forgive yourself, you're going to have a much more enjoyable life going down the road. Your wheels are going to roll a lot smoother, and you're going to find that bliss. And it may only be for a moment at a time. Maybe that sitting and breathing is a moment of harmony for you, and you're cool with that. That's great. You're going to have a better life when you look at it and you realize that it's unique to you. So thank you very much. I'm Mavis Lamb, Intuitive Story Wrangler. So we've got some time. If anybody has any questions about this or what I did in the past or what it's like to work in the crazy world of Hollywood doing production, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have. But otherwise, thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope you go out and have a harmonious day. Thank you.